Markoski Property Show and our special guest Christina.
Hello,
How you doing?
welcome everyone.
Hello everyone.
To our
And
Wednesday night.
Our Wednesday night. This is our fun night, and we're going to be talking about the property, what's happening with property at the moment. The light's off. I'd like to turn the light on. I reckon it's going to be a little bit better. Do you mind turning the light on,
Be a
please?
little bit brighter.
Yeah, just going to make it a bit more even everywhere. Because guys, today we're going to be talking about COVID and property prices. That's what everyone wants to hear about. So we're going to be, much better.
Cool.
That's what we're going to talk about today, COVID and what's happening. See, we're much brighter now and interesting. So I'm going to talk a little facts. If you're online, say hello, type in the chat. Christina's going to be monitoring this time
I'm
around.
going to be in the right group this time,
Yes,
guys.
we're going to be in the right group this time, and we're going to be monitoring.
And settle in, grab your cup of tea or a glass of wine, whatever floats your boat.
Enjoy your, you might as well enjoy your Wednesday night. We're same time, same bat channel, same bat time every week on a Wednesday at 6:05 Australian Central Time, 6:35 Australian Eastern Time. I've got no idea what time it is in Perth, but our Perth friends, hello and welcome anyway.
I think they're 2 hours behind.
Yes.
So
Some would say Perth are ahead of us.
4 o'clock. 4:05.
Yes. So these are the stats. Since Australia closed international borders in March,
All right.
22nd, Sydney's gone down 1.9%. Melbourne's gone down 4.2%.
Right.
Perth, 2%. Brisbane, 0.03%, which is nothing. Stayed the same. Adelaide's gone up 0.7%.
Oh, wow.
So that's what's been happening. And I'm going to explain what these numbers mean.
Cool.
Because that's important. I mean, hearing the numbers is one good thing, but what do they mean? That's the question, you know what I mean? And we're going to talk about that today. And, if anyone got any questions, actually, if you could look back to last week, we had a few questions that weren't answered.
Yeah, I'm just monitoring.
No.
I'm going to go back to last week.
Let's go back to last week. A few people had some questions. I just finished a hyperbaric chamber, so I've got a blocked nose. I've practically been diving in air. So, basically, Perth has been on my no-go zone for a while because Perth's been going down.
And funny enough, one person asked from last week, this was Stav, actually said, when are you releasing your no-go list?
Yes, okay, great. The no-go list I'm releasing.
Don't go there.
This is the challenge, guys. At the moment, the market's changing at the moment, and because of that, my no-go zone, I'm going to be publishing it probably next month.
Right.
And this is going to be a definitive no-go zone. Everyone in the property groups, now in our property group called Property Secrets. So if you're on Facebook or anywhere else, if you're watching us, because we're live streaming through YouTube, my personal page, George Markoski, and quite a few other channels. Head over to Property Secrets if you want to interact with us and actually ask us questions, because that's where we are live each Wednesday. So head on and join us in Property Secrets. It's a thriving group of over 3,500 awesome people that want to grow wealth through property. Our goal is to actually empower 10,000 Australians to create wealth through property investing using a tried and tested process.
And ultimately, that's going to give you freedom in your life, When you've got more money, you've got more time, and you've got the freedom that all comes from that and having a passive income from that.
That's right. And now look, so the state of the market is this, right? Brisbane's done nothing, which is pretty amazing when you think about it, considering all the stress that's been happening. And I think Brisbane will be quite unscathed out of this. Now, there's some areas in Brisbane that are just really part of my no-go zone, but some areas that are part of my, high five zone.
Part of the go zone.
Yeah, so Brisbane's a funny place because you get some suburbs, they're right next to each other, and one's really bad, one's really, really good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Cool.
It's amazing that way. So because of that, you've got to be really careful that you don't choose the wrong one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to publish my no-go zone to make sure you don't get into the wrong place. Perth's easy. The whole of Perth is no-go. Just don't touch Perth. Right?
Don't go there at all.
Guess what other city? Why don't you type in the answers? Type in, guess what other city is no-go? What city do you think in Australia you should not be touching at the moment with a 10-foot pole?
I'll just scroll back to
scroll back to the questions. I'd like a bit of interaction here because this is interesting.
So it doesn't look like we've got any comments yet. It looks like we're frozen, but that's okay. We'll keep going. So, George, just to elaborate on the comments from last week, someone said, do you think Brisbane will have a good opportunity because of all the government spending and infrastructure that's happening there?
Look, I think it will have a good opportunity, yes. Not only because of that, but because I really think there's more vitamin D in Brisbane, and there's more sunshine. The more sunshine you have, the safer you are from COVID, right? That's
exactly what they said, and less impact from COVID. So
yeah. So what I'm saying is, the more sunshine there is in the area, the less impact from COVID. Right. There's a bit of a correlation there. You look at Italy, the part that's up north,
right?
That's what's getting hit. You look at America, the cold part is hit. So less sunshine equals more COVID. That's very controversial, but it's true. San Marino, probably the worst place in the world that got hit by COVID, is actually up in the mountains. And one thing, there's a very old population.
Right.
And the other thing is, they're actually got very mountainous. Now, why is mountains bad for sunshine? You'd think it's close to the sun, so you get more sunshine,
They
right?
block the sun.
Because there's lots of shadows, and you're in the shade and you're blocking the sun. So that's the problem. So basically, if you ask me, you want to protect yourself from COVID, and I'm not a medical doctor, just letting you know, but I'll be taking, 10,000, 20,000 IU of vitamin D a day. I'm personally taking 20,000 a day. That's what I'm doing.
And the other question, this was from Andrew from last week,
Yep.
was what's your view on residential versus commercial?
Excellent. Look, what's my view on residential versus commercial? One thing is, I want people to comment about the no-go city in Australia and why it is and what's happening. I'm going to go in depth on that later on, so remind me to jump into that if you don't mind.
What's the no-go city?
I'm not going to tell anyone.
The whole of Perth?
Yes, but there's another city as well. There's 2 cities. And I want people to comment if you want to hear the answer. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to be going through this first. You're going to have to wait till the end of my show to find out what it is, just to make it interesting for everyone. So commercial versus residential. So that's a very interesting question. What do we go for? Now, traditionally, commercial has been getting larger return than residential.
Yes.
So residential traditionally is around 3.5% to 6.5%, and commercials normally 7.5% to 12.5% return. So a lot of people flock towards commercial. Right. And what happened was, because of that actually people started jumping into commercial, and when commercial was like 10 to 12.5% to 15%, it was actually excellent to go. It was excellent to go to. It was really good. But now it's not like that anymore. The return of commercial is very similar to residential now.
So times have changed.
Times have changed, and this is the other challenge with commercial.
What's
is that it's not a good investment unless you're a big player. So if you're a big player and you can get a Bunnings or a really, government or someone big with a 10, 15, 20-year lease in your property that's really very high quality, that have got guarantees, and you're going to make sure you're going to get your rent, that's great. But with all the uncertainty at the moment, it's not very good. But also, the other challenges is the retail sector is moving online. That's a fact. So therefore, retail's going down. Office space, where's that moving? At home, online,
homes.
in cafes.
Yeah, everyone's working from home. Hello.
Cafes are good, but they're everywhere.
Yeah.
And old offices are turning into cafes, churches are turning into cafes, into nightclubs. Here in the church state, a lot of them are. But also offices, right? Less offices. People are working from home. You look at restaurants, Uber Eats, people are eating at home, right? So we're becoming a generation that you've got the instant gratification monkey that can just press a button and get what they want. You can dial up and get a massage at home, or some food, or work from home.
Doesn't matter.
You can work through Zoom, you can do what you like. So because of that, look how stormy it is behind us. It's actually very wavy. If you have a look at the waves behind us, you can't probably see them there. But basically, I haven't been a big fan of commercial for a long time. And if you look at the stats, commercial properties is you got to rent it to businesses, and 70% of businesses close in the first 2 years, and 90% close in the first 5 years.
Right.
So what's the chance of you getting a tenant that's going to be there for a long time? Where residential people, they're going to be there for a long time. They don't disappear. People are still there. They still need to rent.
Yeah.
So rentals are better. So I wouldn't touch commercial
No.
at all. And actually, you know, I've had some friends that have made money in commercial. And I've had a lot of friends and a lot of people that have lost money in commercial. I know so many more people that have lost money from commercial.
It's certainly high risk, high return, but the high risk just
the return,
makes it a no-go
it's not,
for
not
me.
even a high return anymore. That's the problem.
Yeah, it's high risk, low return now.
Yeah, because I mean, I know people that have had commercial for 15 years, and all it's done for 15 years straight is just go down. It's dropped in half in 15 years.
Wow.
That never happens in residential.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Unless you're in a country town. See, with residential, don't go to one horse town, don't go to a country town, don't speculate, don't go in these places where there's no one there. You want to go large regional centre, you want to go capital city. That's the number 2 things you've got to think about. So me personally, I'm the residential guy. If you're part of Property Secrets, we're thinking residential. We're long-term people, we're not get-rich-quick people. This is our tribe and this is the way we think.
Yeah,
And
tried and tested, residential.
Look, there's people that want to do commercial. Well, if you want to do commercial, you should go join a commercial group.
Yeah, definitely.
That's not us. You know, go talk to those commercial people.
And we've just got a comment from Heidi saying, Melbourne, you can't do anything. Banks aren't lending there.
Heidi, well, look, you're going to get the prize. You're going to get the prize for guessing the city that I'm not going to touch at all at the moment. Melbourne. What's happened is Melbourne's been locked down in quarantine.
Yeah.
So we can imagine Melbourne. Everyone heard of chronic suspension?
Yeah.
You know,
where you get frozen and just nothing happens.
The Melbourne market is on ice, you know. And look, you know, it's dropped 4.2%, but I really think now it's going to stop dropping because no one's going to do anything. It's stuck. It's doing nothing for now. And look,
for a good reason.
the deal is
it's full of COVID.
It's full of COVID. And look, this is the funny thing. I just went through these stats. You know, I went through stats about, you know, Adelaide where it's gone up 0.7%, right?
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. Someone called us a power couple.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Najib.
And look, that's pretty cool. But the thing is, just because Adelaide's gone up 0.7% doesn't necessarily mean all the Adelaide market's good.
Yeah.
And I want to get this through to people. It's very important that there's plenty of markets in Australia. There's 16,000 markets. Just think about that carefully. 16,000.
That's a lot of markets.
And there's a market right here and one next door. One is amazing. One is doing really crap.
One's no go.
Can you believe
touch
that?
It.
So do you want me to give you an example?
Yeah, yes, please.
Do you want an example of
Absolutely.
how you can be right next to each other and it's not good?
Yes.
Okay, time to give you an example. Adelaide, right?
Okay.
It's gone up 0.7%,
Yeah.
right? And that's mainly in the western suburbs of Adelaide,
Right.
right? Now, what's happened in the city?
CBD. Yes.
What's happened to CBD of Adelaide? It is the bloodbath of the CBD of Adelaide.
No go zone.
It's a no-go zone.
That's on the list, by the way.
Okay, so basically, vacancy rates for units in the city of Adelaide have gone through the roof. It's gone up to 7.6%,
Wow, that's massive.
which 7.6%. And you know what? Next show, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be talking about the different percentages and who wins and who loses.
Okay, awesome.
I think that's a really good one.
This is a really important metric that we measure when
so
we're looking for the right
That's
investment
right.
property.
So at 7.6%, what's happening is the tenant's got all the power, utter power.
So
Well,
George, just in case some people might not understand what vacancy rate
okay,
is.
great, good idea.
Let's
Let's
break it down.
Okay, so this is what vacancy rate means. Vacancy rate means that out of 100 properties, how many are empty right now as we speak?
Right.
So in Adelaide CBD, out of 100 properties, 8 of them are empty,
Wow.
right? That's a lot when you think about it. So that means that there's all these landlords in Adelaide CBD begging to get tenants.
Yeah.
And then what happens is, and this is what's happening in Melbourne and Sydney at the moment as well. So what's happening is that because the vacancy rates are so high, then suddenly the competition, the demand supply ratio is out of skew, terribly out of skew. So as a landlord, you're hoping that your tenant doesn't realise this and you can get through it, right? And that can happen, right? That can happen, and a lot of times it does. However, you lose a tenant and you go back in the market, you're competing with all these other landlords. then suddenly you're in big trouble. And it's massively skewed towards the tenant, which we don't want. What we want to do is we want to buy an area that's less than 3% vacancy, and it's skewed towards the landlord.
Definitely.
Yep. So the areas that we
You
go
want to
in,
hedge your bets.
the areas we go in, they're like 1, 2, 3% vacancy. Sometimes
Yeah.
0.5% vacancy, right? Which means out of 100 properties, you might have half a property or one property up for sale, not for sale, for rent, or 2 or 3 at the most, right? And because we pick our properties so carefully, the properties we've got, they go in a matter of days. There's actually a lineup out the front. See, this is the funny thing. A lot of people, because of COVID, were wondering what's going to happen with rentals, right?
Yeah.
And look what's happening in rentals. And I've been saying this for years. The CBD in units has gone down in rentals, and it's very hard. And when you've got a big vacancy, guess what happens? Rentals go down. And when rentals go down, what happens to property prices? They follow.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's the problem. And then they all go together slowly, bit by bit, which is bad. You know, it's like a big iceberg moving. And look, personally, you know, if I had, and I've been saying this for years, if I had a unit in a CBD, I'd be moving it on right now. Because what was filling up the units in the CBDs was immigration.
Had a really good question from Sharon. So, do you sell if you can't rent it? Are you specifically asking about apartments in CBD?
What specifically are you asking about?
Yeah.
Question, right? That's a good question. But
Definitely.
what's happening is immigration has stopped. The borders have closed since the 22nd of March, I think it was.
Right.
So that's what's happened to the property market because of the borders closing. Now, the reason Adelaide hasn't been affected much is because we don't have a lot of immigration here. Because Adelaide will screw it anyway, right? So, seriously. Now, also, funny enough, Adelaide's had the best economy out of all of Australia at the moment.
Woohoo, because we're back to partying. We got no lockdown.
The reason being, we have got a lockdown, we do. You can't dance, you can't have a certain amount of people in a room.
We're allowed out of our homes though.
Yes, but still,
Compared to Melbourne.
you can have 10 people in the house, that's it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of rules, but
We've still got rules. We're not 100%
Yeah, so
free,
let-
but compared to Melbourne, we're a lot freer.
yes, but what I'm saying is Adelaide's economy has been the strongest in Australia because we don't rely and we don't get much immigration.
Well, I think
economy.
part of it also is we've gone back to business a lot quicker than the rest of Australia.
Yes. Well, look, fortunately, the job keeper payments are going through till next March, right?
Yeah.
So what's going to happen is that's going to soften the blow and keep businesses afloat. Because the important thing is, if we can keep businesses going through this period, once we get out of COVID, they're going to be fine. Especially if they all got all their staff, because then you can just jump back in and do it all. But if you lose your staff, then it's such an effort trying to get more staff again. It's too hard. So I would like to get a bit more clarity on that one.
Yes, so Sharon, we just want a bit of clarity where you're asking, do you sell... apartment, sorry. Yeah, so apartment. Is it in the CBD though?
Look, that's a very tough question.
Yeah.
And what needs to happen to answer this question fully? Whenever you've got a real estate question, right, it's not a simple yes or no.
It's never a black or white.
It's never black and white.
It's
And-
always so much grey.
But let me explain how we answer real estate questions. Step one, you need to know what your goals are. And I know we're going back to basics, but knowing your goals, without knowing your goals, you can't really make decisions, right? It's a bit like this. I'm driving my car and I'm going to go, okay, do I go left or do I go right? You ask me the question, do I go
Depends
left?
on the destination.
Well, exactly, high five, right? Now, remember, Alice in Wonderland, when she asked the cat, where do I go? And the cat said, well, if you don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter which way you choose, you're still going the right way. So the problem is, if you don't know where you're going or where your goals are,
Yeah.
well, then it's hard to choose what direction you're going in because you don't know what direction, because you need to know where you're going before you choose how to get there,
Yeah, that's true.
right? So one, you need to be totally clear on where you want to be, right?
Yeah.
And what I'm going to do is we've got a 14-day challenge that goes through this, but I'm going to be releasing this module free of charge to Property Secrets because I want everyone to be clear on this, because I think if everyone get on the same page, then I can answer their questions better. Because then I'd say, what are your goals? And you're like, okay, my goal is to get 10 properties in 10 years and earn $180,000 passive income.
Yeah.
Well, then if we've got that goal, we know where we're going. Then the next step we need to know is we need to know what have you got? How are we going to get to that goal? You know, if we're going to a certain destination, do we have a bike? Are we walking? Do we have a Ferrari? Do we have petrol?
Yeah.
Do we have to stop somewhere on the way? You know, so we need to know what assets you've got, what income you've got, and everything else like that.
Definitely. Insurance just elaborated. Melbourne, I have a goal to buy a family forever home.
Yeah.
So the goal is to buy a family forever home. That's excellent.
That's an excellent goal to have. That's a great goal. And I don't want to ask you too many personal questions here in the group either. Like, you know what I mean? Because we're going to go in depth. What I'm going to do is I'm going to release a couple of the modules from the 14-day challenge free of charge to everyone in Property Secrets. And that way you can go and do them yourself. And therefore, next time round, next Wednesday, you'll be able to answer the questions a lot better. And seriously, if you know where you're going and what you've got, it might make it easier. One of the things I do when I look at if I should sell a property or not, you know, that comes around every now and again. And look, I personally don't like selling property. I try to avoid it as much as I can.
Yeah.
But sometimes you've got to cut your losses. I'll give you an analogy of how to think about selling property, because a lot of people get stuck on not wanting to sell it, especially if they've lost some money on it. So, you know, what happens is you've got a $500,000 property, you've lost 80 grand on it. And I know a guy who's got a property, he paid 400, it's worth 250 now, right? And when it was worth 350, I told him sell it. But he had that 50,000 loss, he couldn't handle it. And now it's 100,000 loss, right?
Wow.
Or something like that. But he still can't handle it, right? But there's the deal. Let's say, for example, you're going for a walk to the shops. And the shop's 10 kilometres away.
Yeah.
And you're walking along and you've gone 3 kilometres. And then someone rings you and says, hey, just want to let you know, the shop's closed. It's not open.
Yeah.
Now, but you're saying, well, I've already walked 3 Ks. Would you keep walking knowing the shop's closed?
No, you'd have to be an idiot.
Yes. Now, this is the same as property investing. Just because you lost some money on the property, do you keep losing more money? No.
No.
So if the shop's closed.
Stop it.
So that's the way you've got to think about it. So throwing bad money after good money and just throwing more at it doesn't help. So the challenge is, if you're going towards the shops and you've already gone 3 Ks and the shops are closed, turn around. The sooner you turn around, the better. Because if you keep going another 3 Ks, then what do you do there? It doesn't matter. Turn around.
So Steph has asked, what are your thoughts on Moreton Bay region in Queensland?
Okay, I'm going to have a look at that, the Moreton Bay region, and I'm not sure because I've got a big spreadsheet, and I'm very bullish about a lot of Queensland at the moment. I love Queensland, and what I'm doing is I'm going in, 15, 20 Ks to CBD in Queensland, Brisbane. That's what I like. There's some very amazing suburbs, 15, 20 Ks out of the CBD in Brisbane, which are doing very extremely well, and some of the properties we've done recently have been, I think it's about 20 Ks out of Brisbane CBD. They're around $400,000. They rent it out in a day or two. We had lineups of people. We had people paying a year in advance on 3 of these properties.
To rent these properties.
A year in advance. Like paying $24,000 up front just to rent them. That's how popular they are. And that's the sort of properties I want.
That's the property you want as an investment.
Yeah,
Hello.
that's the property you want because, you really want to do that. So let's talk about selling a property and all that. So really, if you walk 3 miles towards a shop and you know the shop's closed, turn around quicker and do it, right?
Yeah.
So if you know a property's bad, it's much better cutting your losses quickly, not slowly. You lost 20 grand, great, get out. Lost 50 grand, it depends. Because we've got to look at it in the big cycle of things. So what happens with property? If you can imagine a line going like this. Property prices do an average line that sort of goes straight. That's the line. But they're actually going zigzagging up and above and below the line.
Yeah.
So if my property below that line is worth less than what it should be, looking at the long-term average, we're talking market cycle timing here.
This is another really important key metric that we use and measure an area when we're looking at investing in it.
Yep. So market cycle timing. We're looking at market cycle timing, and basically, if this property is below where it should be,
Well, that's got to do with the property clock. So maybe next week we'll do like a training on the property clock and you can talk about market cycle timing more in depth.
Yeah, but I want to talk more about this anyway. So if it's below where it should be with the market cycle timing, so I've got a unit and this unit, I paid 450,000. It's gone down to 400,000. But the average price over the last 10 years, it should be at 500. Then I'm going to keep it because it's going to pop back up. But if I paid 450, but it should have been 400, and it's going to go back down to 350, well then I might as well go. So it's a matter of judging the market cycle timing. And how do we do that? Well, what we're going to do is the longer the property's been down for, the better. So a lot of people, what they do is they look at property magazines and they get this one wrong, and a lot of people get this wrong all the time. And there's property companies out there, they annoy me. They're like, oh, Gladstone's gone up 5 years in a row, 20% growth, 10% growth, that's where you should buy. No. If a property area's been going up long term for a long time, don't buy because it's already past that peak.
Yeah.
It's going to go back down again. But if you've got a property and that property area has done nothing for a long time, and as long as we've got enough demand supply, it's going to go back up.
That's true.
Right? So the property clock, so if 12 o'clock's the peak, 6 o'clock's the bottom. Right? The deal is you don't want to sell at 6.
No.
But at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, you can sell because you're going to miss that whole point. You can sell at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
Right? And 8, but you don't want to sell anywhere between 5 and 10.
So Daryl's just asked, so where did he buy that was 400 and went down to 250?
Okay, he bought a commercial property in Adelaide CBD.
There you go.
And funny enough, this commercial property in Adelaide CBD, they still haven't finished selling them all, even though it was like over 10 years ago. I think it was 12 to 15 years ago. There's still brand new apartments in there, not apartments, as in offices that haven't sold yet.
So there you go. Commercial is on our no-go zone.
Commercial's our no-go zone.
And apartments in the CBD. Like, he hit all of the no-goes
Yeah,
for
look,
us.
what I like to know when I'm buying property is there going to be more demand for this sort of thing in the future? Right?
Yeah.
And with units, there is going to be more demand in the future. We've had a cutback now. What's going to happen is going to be a correction in units in all the CBDs in Australia because we've got no migration, and migration is fueling that. There's going to be a correction. Once the correction's over and immigration comes back in,
There's going to be a
there's
massive
going to
boom.
be a boom again, right? So, if you've got a unit and you can cover the cost, you can fix your cash flow, you could keep it, right? Depending where it is. Because you look at some places like in Melbourne, for example, what's that area near town?
I don't know, sorry.
I forgot what it's called, but that's okay. I'll keep going. So what I do when I'm looking at if I'm going to sell a property is I look at the cash flow. Because, part of the 3 things we do, we need to, 1, protect. Then we need to profit, then we need to prosper. Those are the 3 steps.
Yeah.
Right? And I call it strategy, cash flow, growth. And in simpler terms, it's protect, profit, prosper. That's the 3 things. So just so people are clear, and I've renamed them this way so people really get it. And
Protect, profit, prosper.
Yeah, and actually what I'm doing is I'm releasing a booklet. I'm going to be releasing an ebook with the 10 steps to actually protect, profit, and prosper.
Nice.
So if you want that book, just say yes, hell yeah, in the comments.
I'm in.
I'll be in, and I'll get it for you because I'm actually finishing it this weekend, hopefully, and I'll be launching it very soon. And it's going to give you all the steps you need to protect, to profit, and to prosper. And really, what it is: strategy, cash flow, growth. And part of protection is cash flow. And what I want to do is really work on that cash flow to make it easy. Because if I've got a property and it's cost me $20 a week or $10 a week, then guess what? It's easy for me to protect myself and not lose that if you can afford $10 a week or $20 a week. But if that property's cost me $300 a week, it's like having a big yoke around your neck. You've got to get rid of it. You know what I mean? So one of the things you want to do if that property is not is hard to hold cash flow wise, if it's causing you financial hardship, you shouldn't be doing it. And look, the fact of it is, when you're investing in property, sometimes you're going to make a mistake,
That's right.
right? Now, using a tried and tested system and really getting knowledge first and investing in yourself is going to help you mitigate most of those mistakes.
Well, you're getting a massive shortcut because you're getting to leverage off of George's experience, and he's been there, done that, and, you know, made the mistakes and learnt from them.
Yes.
So you don't have to, basically.
Yeah, I've made mistakes, definitely, and basically that's okay.
Going to save you, you know, not only a shitload of time, but it's also going to save you a shitload of money.
Exactly. But what I'm saying is, just because you make a mistake in property, don't let that put you off investing in property.
And, you know, whenever you make a mistake, you always learn. So there's always the learning from that experience as well. So we've got another question from Andrew. What are your thoughts on residential rental guarantees?
Okay, look, I personally, a rental guarantee, I think, and if you can clarify this, I think what you're saying is, what if you're buying a property from a developer and they give you a rental guarantee? Right?
That's what it sounds like.
Yes, that's what it sounds like.
Rental guarantee.
Yep. I'm very wary of rental guarantees. The reason being is, if you're getting a property with a very low vacancy rate, you don't need a guarantee. So it's worthless. And if you're getting a guarantee where there's a high vacancy, you don't want to touch it. So let's say, for example, I'm buying a property.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I do my due diligence, I'm going to be getting between 0.5% to 3% vacancy rate.
Right.
That's my guarantee.
Yeah.
Because it's brand new, I'm getting a very low vacancy rate, I'm going to get it rented out no matter what. So if someone gives me a rental guarantee on that, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah,
because
but
I'm not getting
it's
anything.
Peace of mind.
Yeah, no,
at the same time.
but I'm not getting anything out of it.
Yeah.
We've got to be smart about this. They're not giving me anything extra. Now, let's say there's a high vacancy rate and they give me a rental guarantee. What they're doing is giving me a false sense of hope.
Right.
Because what's going to happen is once that guarantee is out, I'm screwed.
But George, at the same time, we have had our members, and I've personally helped my members invest in properties where there's been a low vacancy rate, and I have managed to get a rental guarantee as well.
Yes, so what I'm saying is if you can get a rental guarantee on the back end, it's okay.
Of a low vacancy rate. But it
nothing,
has to always come back to the vacancy rate.
nothing wrong with that, but you don't want to pay that out of your pocket.
No.
So what happens sometimes is a developer will give a guarantee out on the rental, right? And usually they'll give a guarantee because it's such a low vacancy, it doesn't really mean anything. And what it's going to do, it gives you a bit more peace of mind and stuff like that. And I've got them in the past.
Yeah.
But I'm wary where the vacancy rate is high or where a developer is pricing that into the price.
So it's really simple. Just check the vacancy rate, basically.
Yes. If the vacancy rate is low and you get a rental guarantee, totally fine. It's good, right?
Yeah.
If the vacancy rate's high, then it's bad.
Yep. So over 4% would be classified as high.
Over 3%
Yeah.
is high, depending on demand supply ratio. See, the vacancy rate on its own is one metric.
Yeah.
It has to be coupled with the demand supply ratio, because let's say you've got a 4% vacancy rate, right? And more supply and demand. That is a recipe for disaster because the trend's going to go up. Let's say you've got a 3% vacancy, 3.5% vacancy, but a very high demand, low supply. That's actually going to be awesome because the vacancy rate's going to go down because of the demand supply. So you have to understand that the demand supply at the moment will affect the vacancy rate in the future. So therefore, you've got to take both of them together.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
And that's why they're both so important together.
Yeah,
There's no
so
point
you've
looking
got
at
it,
one metric.
Daryl. So absolutely. So he's saying, so when the vacancy rate is under 3% plus a rental guarantee, it's okay. Yes.
One more caveat, sorry. Vacancy rate is under 3%, rental guarantee, and you've got more demand supply.
All those three things.
You need the demand supply there as well, because what happens is if you've got vacancy rate of 3%, that may not be indicative of the future because the vacancy rate is a lagging factor.
Right, there you
go. So for example, if I go to an area where there's a lot of developers building lots of properties, and it's 3% vacancy at the moment.
Right.
Problem is, it takes a year or two to finish all these properties.
Got it.
And that 3% vacancy is going to jump
It's going to
in
go
a year
up.
or two.
Yeah. If there's
because there's big blood,
yeah.
but also there's going to be oversupply, which is going to make it challenging for a little bit. So what happens in new areas when there's a lot of developers building stuff? What it does, it just slows you down a little bit because it pauses things and it can put the vacancy rate up for a little bit. So what I prefer to do is go to a place where there's more demand, less supply, and therefore it's going to push my vacancy rate down afterwards anyway.
Okay, cool. So thoughts, this is from Jeremy, thoughts on Phil Anderson 18-year cycle?
Yes, the Phil Anderson 18-year cycles is fascinating. It's very interesting. And what I like to do is his 18-year cycle has got a lot of street cred to it. However, I don't think it works exactly the way he thinks it does. But I like, because if you look at property prices, 70s, 80s, 90s, thousands and 10,000s, the last 5 decades. If you look at the last 5 decades, all the cycles have been between 7 and 10 years. Right? The stats are there. Can you put them to 18-year cycles? Yes, you can. Because there's the mini cycles, 7 to 10 to 12 years. Then there's the biggest cycle of 18 years where there's a bigger spike. And then there's the overall biggest cycle that Harry Dent talks about. So there's the small cycle, the medium size from Phil Anderson, and then there's the big one from Harry Dent. And all of them interplay. And what happens is you got different peaks and troughs. You got peaks because of population and age group and spending. Then you got the migration peak, right? And then you got the economic peak. And you got to map all of them together. Right. And actually, I do a training on our one-day workshop where I've mapped them all together. And what I've got is I've got actually all these on every country in the world. What a nerd I am. And what I've done is I've charted population growth, immigration, and GDP, and also the population age group. Because what happens is populations, the biggest spending is at 45. That's the age. So when you got a country and they're all 45 years old, the main of them.
That's when they're all having their midlife crisis.
That's when they're earning.
At 45.
That's when they're earning and spending the most money.
They go out and buy a Ferrari.
That's when they're earning and spending the most money.
Yeah.
And that has a big effect. But also the immigration. So when you look at all those waves, it's fascinating. And what I've done is I've plotted this out. And Australia is in the box seat. It really is. We're in a spending wave. And Corona has just paused it for a bit, but it's going to go crazy. It's going to go through the roof. It's really exciting stuff. And I'd like to get more into that because I'm very impressed that you understand the 18-year clock. And I was studying the 18-year clock a long time ago, probably about 15 years ago when it first came out. And actually a lot of people invented the 18-year clock. His research was done on some other guys that did it in the early 1900s, funny enough. So I'm very familiar with this stuff. It's interesting stuff. I love stats.
Awesome. So how do you know demand and supply?
Yes, okay. How do you know demand and supply? Very good question. There's 2 types of research. There's fundamental research, statistical research. Fundamental research is very subjective. You know, what we do is we go, okay, they're building a school here. How much of this property is going to go up because they're building a school? It's going to go up, definitely, but how much, we don't know. So that's hard. Statistical research is how you find out demand and supply. And everyone's got a different take on it, to be honest with you. So what happens is there's slightly different algorithms and formulas you can use because there's probably around about 29 to 39 different metrics you can choose to measure. And I used to measure 39 metrics. Now I've gone down to 29. Funny enough, sometimes when you measure less metrics, you get a clearer picture of what's happening.
Interesting.
So I've gone down by metrics because what I do with my modelling, for the nerds out there that want to know about the modelling, what I do with my modelling is I get my algorithm, get all the stats for all the suburbs, and check it out. And then what I do is go back in time with these stats and see if it can predict something that's already happened.
Ah, very clever.
And what I found is 29 metrics is stronger predictability than 39 metrics.
Wow.
There's less noise.
So you've even tailored the best ones.
Yes, I've tailored the best ones, and this came out of game theory, right? And also statistical research. And what they found is with horse racing, they had different people that had different algorithms that could find out who would win a horse race.
Right.
And they found using less metrics, they're a lot better at guessing what was going to win than more.
Interesting.
And the more information they had, the less chance they had of actually getting it.
Right.
Yes, because sometimes more stats is not more. So I've cut down 29 now.
Less is more.
So what I do is I look at the 29 fundamental statistics. And that's why I get the demand supply ratio. Probably too much to go into tonight. I've got a training on it that I do in our portal for our members. And I go through every single metric.
We also cover a fair bit of that in our 14-day challenge.
Actually, we cover it all in our 14-day challenge.
Yeah. So that'd definitely be something worth checking out if you want to get more in depth, because we really talk about it for hours and it goes so in depth.
Actually, I'll go through every single metric in the 14-day challenge and show you exactly how I do it and where I get the numbers from.
Yeah.
I'm very transparent with what I do. I think it's very important.
Definitely.
You know.
Awesome. So that's everything, guys. Awesome. Fantastic.
That's everything?
Yep, that's all the questions.
Look, thank you so much for listening. Now, look, what's happening is, this is the important thing. If you're listening to this on Facebook, thank you so much. We're launching a podcast called Property Secrets.
Get ready, it's coming.
I'd love you guys to come join us. And if you're listening to this, because this is actually going to become one of the podcasts. If you're listening to this, thanks for joining us, one of our first Property Secrets podcasts. And come and join us in Property Secrets, the Facebook group. Because what we really want to do, we want to get our friends from podcast land and our friends from Facebook land to join forces. Because what we're really a community of like-minded individuals. You know, because we want to empower 10,000 Australians to create financial freedom through investing in property using a tried and tested system. And, you know, that's very important to us. And I want us to work as a group. And I'm really seeding this and putting a lot of energy, but I really want to find leaders in our community to start taking over, you know, because I'm only one man and this is a big mission. So if this is also your mission to become financially free through property or to help other people, please join us. Because
Absolutely.
Together, everyone achieves more. Wouldn't you agree?
Definitely.
And that's the way it is. And look, I'm very grateful for everyone joining us tonight. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks for joining
love
us,
these
guys.
sessions. And we're going to be here every Wednesday, rain, hail or shine. And we're going to be answering any question you want. That's, you know, this is the George Markoski Property Show. And we really want you to get the most value out of it. So the more you interact, the more people that come live, the better you're going to get, the more we're going to get. We're going to create a movement and we're going to make a change, because I really believe we're going to be the purposeful investors that are going to get more income, more impact, and really make a change, not just in our lives, but in our families' lives. I really believe property investing is the one thing, you know, replacing your income through property is the one thing that's going to change your life. But also, you know, the life you want, the family you want, the future you want, the holidays you want, all of that is based on the property empire that you build and the community you want as well. And that's what I believe. So thank you.